After this episode of The Mandalorian, Baby Yoda might not be my favorite person right now. Actually, you know what? You need to be on a timeout, mister. Or ma'am. They never really specified his gender. So, The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 2, entitled Chapter 10, The Passenger. And this episode picks up literally seconds after last week's episode, and the synopsis reads, The Mandalorian must ferry a passenger with precious cargo on a risky journey. And this is going to be a full spoiler recap, so if you haven't seen Episode 2, this is your warning. And so yeah, like I said, this episode picks up literally seconds after the ending of episode 1. So you see the Mandalorian, he's on his speeder bike and he's speeding through the desert heading back to his spaceship. And of course, wherever the Mandalorian goes, trouble seems to follow, especially considering he has a creature in Baby Yoda that has a bounty on its head. Baby Yoda, you in danger, girl. And so we see bounty hunters are trying to attack the Mandalorian, and as he's on his speeder, right as he's about to pass this set of rocks, they pull a rope and it causes him to crash on his speed bike. But in a way that kind of shows that the Mandalorian is not only badass, but he's always prepared. He doesn't crash into the sand. No, he's able to still, like a cat, land on his feet. But Baby Yoda is unfortunately not so lucky, and Baby Yoda ends up tumbling through the sand. And I'm like, oh, Baby Yoda, no. And so Mandalorian starts fighting with these bounty hunters. And that the fight scene in the beginning of this episode was just great. And I feel like the beginning of this episode was probably my favorite opener of the entire series so far. And I'm like, they put this scene in there on purpose where they put Baby Yoda in danger, so you're feeling all cute and protective against Baby Yoda. But like I said, after this episode, this is exactly why Baby Yoda is in timeout right now. So Din, which is the Mandalorian's first name, if you remember, he easily takes out the bounty hunters. And a moment that I love is, and what helped make this one of my favorite openers of the series, is there's another bounty hunter that gets a hold of Baby Yoda and it has a knife to its throat. And the Mandalorian is like, if you put one mark on him, there will be no place that you can hide from me. And honestly, like, that just reminded me of T'Challa. Like, that's a very T'Challa line. And it actually reminded me of a line T'Challa said in Captain America Civil War, where he's talking to Steve Rogers and he says, The Black Panther has been the protector of Wakanda for generations. And now, because your friend murdered my father, I now wear the mantle of king. And so now I ask you, as both warrior and king, how long do you think you can keep your friend safe from me? Rest in peace, Chadwick Boseman. I know that was a terrible Black Panther accent, but I love that moment in Captain America, and I love that, and this moment reminded me of that. I got my Princess Shuri doll right behind me, and Shuri's probably like, what the hell was that? I'm sorry. And then when that bounty hunter put Baby Yoda down and Baby Yoda ran to the Mandalorian with his arms up like, Daddy! I was like, oh, Baby Yoda's so cute! But that's when that cuteness ends, right after that, because Baby Yoda's still on timeout. And so after he takes out the bounty hunters, he continues to, now he has to walk to his destination, and he heads to the famous cantina that we've seen in the Star Wars movies since we are on Tatooine. And actually, let me backtrack. I forgot to mention that this episode was directed by Peyton Reed, and Peyton Reed was actually the director of Ant-Man 1 and 2. And the reason I bring this up is because as soon as we get to the cantina, we come across this character that apparently we've seen before. I don't remember seeing them, but they mentioned that he was in the background in one of the previous episodes in the first season. But now we're getting a full introduction to this character. I'm pretty sure he's going to play a bigger role, but his name is Dr. Mandible, and he's a giant ant, basically. And I'm like, ha, the director of Ant-Man is bringing this ant character to life. But Dr. Mandible apparently knows someone who knows someone who knows where other Mandalorians are. And so with the help of Amy Sedaris' Pele Mato's character, who serves as the translator, she basically informs the Mandalorian that, hey, he can help you out. There's this contact that he knows, and he'll tell you where to meet them. And the contact that knows what other Mandalorians are is this frog lady. And just the design of this frog lady, I was just like, oh, she's so cute. Now I'm like, I want a frog lady toy now. And then not even just the design, but just her whole demeanor. It just seems so cute. So again, with Amy Sedaris' character serving as translator, the frog lady basically explains to the Mandalorian that she can tell him where other Mandalorians are, but the catch is he has to take her to the destination where the Mandalorians are, because she, again, the name of the episode is The Passenger. She has the precious cargo of these eggs that need to be fertilized, and her husband is on that secret planet. And if these eggs aren't fertilized by a certain time, it'll be the end of her entire bloodline. And it made me feel bad for her, because just even given that backstory, it added stakes to this character, and so it made you want to root for her. But unfortunately, you see some trouble lurking in the background, because if you know from previous seasons, Baby Yoda eats frogs. And so when Baby Yoda sees those eggs, he's looking at those eggs like, oh, dinner time. And I'm just like, no, Baby Yoda, you better not. Especially after that backstory, I was like, you better not. And so they get inside the Mandalorian ship, the Razor Crest, and they start to fly to the destination. Oh, something I forgot to also mention is the thing that makes this mission extra dangerous is the Mandalorian is not allowed to fly in hyperspace, because Frog Lady explains that something about hyperspace will kill the eggs. And so he has to travel regular travel, which is they call sublight, which makes things way more dangerous, because that exposes him to pirates or bounty hunters or any other people flying through space. So while the Mandalorian is flying, he puts the ship on autopilot, and then he goes to take a nap. And once he goes down to his living quarters, what do you see? Baby Yoda is eating the freaking eggs. He's eating these women's babies. And I get Baby Yoda eats frogs. That's what he loves to eat. But like I said, after getting this woman's backstory, I wanted to have Baby Yoda popped at that point. Like, I remember in season 1 when one of those stormtroopers hit Baby Yoda, and I got so heated because it hit Baby Yoda, but it made me flash back to that moment. I wanted to be that stormtrooper and pop Baby Yoda, because it's not like, yeah, we call it Baby Yoda, but it's not like Baby Yoda's stupid. It's not like Baby Yoda is actually a baby. It's just a baby in terms of what we think it is, but it's pretty smart to the point that it knew exactly what it was doing. That's why it looked around before it ate the eggs to see if it would get caught before it did what it did. And so when the Mandalorian caught him and just simply said, no, don't do that, especially after it ate the egg, I was like, no, you need to pop his ass. This is why he's on timeout. And I was just like, man, Baby Yoda. Yeah, I said it. And so anyway, after giving the most mildest of scoldings, Mandalorian goes into his quarters and he takes a nap, but he's quickly awakened by the arrival of some X-Wing pilots. They basically want him to ping information about his ship to them so they can try to find out if he's a former Imperial soldier on the run or in hiding. And if you know from episode 6 of season 1, the Mandalorian is wanted by the New Republic because he broke into their prison to free one of those Twi'leks. And actually, I recommend, before watching this episode, because of how tied into episode 6 it was, I recommend going back to watching episode 6, because the first season was a little over a year ago, so there were things that I didn't remember. And so going back to watch episode 6 made me understand and appreciate this episode more now that I remembered everything. But yeah, so once they figured out that this was the same Razor Crest that was at that prison facility, Mandalorian dips off. And I felt like this entire scene was just funny to me, because even though I cannot see Mandalorian's face because he's covered from head to toe, you could feel the tension that was happening during this scene. And you could, even though you literally can't see it, but you could almost picture the expression that's happening on the Mandalorian's face under that helmet, where he's like, damn, I'm and so when those X-Wing pilots were like, so were you at such and such location? And the Mandalorian just gets quiet, and then he revs up his engines and he dips. I just started laughing. outfit. And I really enjoyed this entire chase scene. Like, the cinematography for this scene was brilliant. And then not only that, as the ship was rattling back and forth because the Mandalorian is trying to outmaneuver the X-Wing fighters, the reaction from the frog lady as she's just screaming and stuff like that, like, I just really got a kick out of this scene. And then not only that, it just made it that much more tense, the fact that there was no score playing in the background. It was just the noise from the atmosphere, and that just made it all that more intense. And I love this scene. And so the Mandalorian's able to escape from the X-Wing fighters, but unfortunately he ends up crashing into a cavern. And so when the Mandalorian goes to check on the eggs of the woman to make sure the eggs were okay, what do you end up seeing? Baby Yoda is down there eating more eggs. And based on the dialogue, Baby Yoda ate more than one egg after the Mandalorian told him not to touch those eggs. And I'm just like, again, man, Baby Yoda. And so his ship is like completely damaged. There's like a giant hole in the hull, and so they can't fly anywhere. So the Mandalorian suggests they just sleep for the night, and he'll figure out what they're gonna do in the morning. And again, a callback to season 1, episode 6, The Prisoner. The frog lady finds that robot that the Mandalorian ended up killing in that episode, and she ends up rewiring it so she could use its voice box as a translator because the Mandalorian doesn't speak her frog language. And the frog lady basically implores to the Mandalorian, like, look, we don't have time to wait until the morning. Like, I need to get these eggs to my husband by a certain time. Like, this is about the survival of my bloodline, and you promised to take me there no matter what. Like, are you a man of your word or not? I thought the Mandalorian code was all about keeping your word. Is that true, or is that fake news? Speaking of, I am so glad we got rid of his ass. Yes! I digress. And so the Mandalorian tries to work on the ship to try to get it salvageable enough to be able to fly. And Baby Yoda ends up leaving the ship and goes to the Mandalorian and tries to tell him in its own way that Frog Lady left. She escaped from the ship. And so the Mandalorian goes looking for her because wherever they are, it's not safe. And while the Mandalorian's walking through the cavern, I just thought to myself, I was like, you know what? Like, or no matter how vast the Star Wars universe, or at least they tell you the Star Wars universe is, for whatever reason, they always seem to go to a desert planet or a frozen planet. I'm like, can we see a tropical island planet or something? Or can we see another city-like planet like Coruscant? Speaking of, they never really told us the status of Coruscant after the war, even in the new trilogy. Like, what's going on with Coruscant? But anyway, so the Mandalorian ends up finding the frog lady, and she's warming herself and her eggs up in a hot spring that she ends up finding. And the Mandalorian basically tells her, like, look, you cannot be out here by yourself because we don't know what's out here. It's not safe to be out here. So he helps her gather up her eggs and put it back in that special container that she brought to protect the eggs. And again, Baby Yoda tries to grab one of the eggs to eat it, but thankfully the Mandalorian catches him in time and is like you say to a pet, he's like, no. And Baby Yoda kind of has this look on his face like, how dare you tell me no? And I wanted to slap him. And so while they're gathering the eggs, Baby Yoda goes off on his own because he smells something. He ends up coming across some more eggs, but these are spider eggs. And so he breaks open the spider eggs and eats one of the baby spiders. And that alerts the mama spider. And the mama spider ain't having that. And then that awakes all the other spider babies. And they end up going after them because Baby Yoda ate one of the babies, putting them all in danger. And now they're being surrounded by hundreds and hundreds of spiders. And this actually reminded me of the moment in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets when they got surrounded by all the spiders, and the particular spider-like design for these creatures, and just the overall scene itself. Like, these spiders look scary as hell. And so they're running away from these spiders. They're running for their lives, and they're able to make it to the ship. But these spiders just keep coming and coming and coming. And eventually they're able to make it to the cockpit, and the Mandalorian is trying to get the cockpit door closed. But again, there's so many spiders, it's hard for him to close the door. And so a couple of the spiders get onto Baby Yoda, and the frog lady ends up saving Baby Yoda, and the Mandalorian is able to burn the cockpit door closed, and the Mandalorian tries to get the ship flying and to get out of there, to escape from all the spiders, because it doesn't look good for the heroes. And right as the ship levitates off the ground, Mama Spider comes crashing on top of that ship, and it looks like they're about to die. But of course, you know, Mandalorian's not gonna die. It's his show. It's called The Mandalorian. And right before the Mama Spider is about to break the glass into the cockpit, the X-Wing fighter pilots end up saving their lives. And they basically kill not only the mama spider, but they kill all the tiny baby spiders too. And the Mandalorian comes out there because he thinks they're coming after him. He thinks they're gonna arrest him. And the X-Wing fighter pilots come out and says, hey, you have a warrant for your arrest because you helped free an escaped prisoner. But at the same time, you gave us 3 other wanted prisoners. You gave us 3 other wanted criminals. And based on the security cameras, we saw that you risked your life to save one of our New Republic lieutenants. And so because of that, we're gonna let you go. And his exact quote was, we know these are trying times. And so basically they know at the end of the day, he's not really a bad guy. And so they end up letting him go. But they basically say like, and so yeah, they end up letting him go. And the Mandalorian is able to barely fix his ship. And in his words, to limp through space to their destination. And the only thing is they're not able to leave the cockpit because the cockpit is the only place that hasn't been that damaged and is the only place on the ship that he's able to pressurize. And he's basically like, if the door on this ship blows off or whatever, we're all dead. And so yeah, you see the final shot is the ship is barely holding on as it's making its way to that planet. And when the Mandalorian and Frog Lady close their eyes to go to sleep, what do you see right before the credits? Baby Yoda has one more frog egg in his hand and he eats it. And I'm just like, again, say it with me, man. Baby Yoda. And I'm just like, you really are eating this woman's babies even after she saved your life? Like, Baby Yoda was straight trash in this episode. But despite that, overall, I really enjoyed this episode. I had a lot of fun with this episode, especially with the chase scenes and then just the way this episode was crafted, the cinematography, the designs of the spiders, the frog lady. Like, I really enjoyed this episode, and I like this, and I think I like this episode more than the season 2 premiere. Now, granted, this episode didn't leave me as hype as say episode 7 and 8 of season 1, but I did really have fun with this episode. The only thing I do kind of feel like this episode felt a little incomplete because I'm just like, does he make it to his final destination? Are we gonna see more of this frog lady? Does the frog lady end up fertilizing her eggs? Like, are we gonna find out more about that? So I at least wish the episode ended with them at least arriving to the planet. But despite that, overall, I think this episode was a solid hit. But what wasn't a hit with me is Baby Yoda. And I'm just like, pop him, pop him. But the question is, what did you guys think about this episode of The Mandalorian? Do you think Baby Yoda deserved to get popped? Let me know down in the comment section below. Also, if you can, hit that thumbs up button and like this video to really help out the channel. And if this is one of your first time checking out one of my videos, please check out the other videos on my channel. And if you like what you see, please subscribe for more and hit that bell notification button so you're alerted every single time I post a new video. And tell your friends, families, and neighbors about my channel to help me continue to grow. And as always, I will catch you guys next time. No, you're not coming with me. Bye.